up enough and time to start this microphone. So I'm planning to break it before I leave. I'm just letting you know. At the end? Okay. Before Peter? No, no, I just flew. Okay. All right. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. I'm told this is an all boys cohort. And I asked repeatedly, and I did not believe it until I actually saw the group. And I'm like, that's going to be an interesting thing. All right. So, you guys, I'm okay. I'll be okay. I have no problems with all boys. Do No, no. Usually it's more girls. We'd have like 3 boys, 4 boys, and once there's girls, the girls come, the boys stay home. So this is gonna be interesting. So you guys, you get 2 parts of the family here. So I'm the older and wiser of the siblings. So I come first, and I speak about leadership. And then my younger brother comes after. He's younger, but he's much bigger than me, and he'll speak about management. Some of you might know me. I know Mark knows me too well. But my name is Phoebe, and I'm blessed to be the principal of Lapetia Christian College. And I've been in the job for 9 years now. I've been in education for 18, and I have kind of a few degrees under my belt, from an undergrad to a teaching degree to a master's in educational leadership to a diploma or a certificate from Harvard for higher education. So I kind of have a little bit of an experience on leadership. Peter, on the other hand, he's the corporate lawyer with an MBA, and yeah, he's the manager in the family. So we're very much we're very different. He's the mature one. Although I'm older and wiser, he'll be very quiet and very calm. I'll make you do a lot of things, a lot of talking. So just be prepared. Today we're going to go over just an overview of leadership. And then next week we're going to be targeting more the servant leadership piece, and what our Lord has drawn out to be a servant leader. And the week after, you only have me for about an hour, and in that hour, I guess I'll give you multiple case studies where you're going to read the case study, and you're going to take what we've learned in the first 2 weeks and apply it. I see that you've come with the books. I'm glad you brought your books, but you're not going to need the books in my class. You're going to have to do them on your own. Yes. Yeah, I know we're all, smart people. You're going to read them and you're going to do them on your own. You're going to find a lot of things from what I'm saying are the bold lines, but I find that the very first time I actually taught this course, when I took it right from the book, it was kind of boring because it was the same thing. So we're going to go through things together. Feel free to argue and disagree and agree. I'm okay with that. And we're going to get through this course. Everything. And you'll find me using a lot of experiences. The reason I said I know Mark too well is he was one of my students. So he'll smile at some of the things, but he graduated how many years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago, right? Yeah, the guy, yeah, he's now 5 years ago. We don't, yeah, from okay, don't say anymore. خلاص يا Mark, I like seriously. Yeah, it was just yesterday. I still have pictures. All right. So when we talk about leadership, I've put up some pictures of different leaders. By the way, my undergrad is in history. So you would have, before I had other historical figures, but I chose more modern and kind of people that we all would know or heard of. When we look at this picture, it's a combination of leaders. Some of them we'll like a lot, and some of them we can't stand. We're praying them out of power. Some of them we're hoping that God would continue to preserve them for many years as they lead. And some of them actually have gone before us and have done all kinds of leadership things that we're still reaping from that success story. So I have 3 ladies. By the way, I switched Trump's picture to Queen Elizabeth. Whether we like her or not, whether we agreed with her way or not, I think when she passed, we realized that this woman was a good leader in different sense of the word. And a lot of the videos that came up about her promising in front of God that she will take care of her people, we saw that her throughout the years, for the most part, her faith was very clear. Tamal Virini, I don't know if any of you met her in person. I do recall her as a child sitting beside her, hearing her stories and miracles of Saint Flipatir when I was a little kid. And the stories, the miracles that happened to her, she always used to say them as if it happened to someone else, another nun. If you would have seen Tamav when you're walking by, you would not say, this is the Tamav Irini that made the nunnery of Flipatir what it is today. Mother Teresa, a woman that left everything, went to the slums of India, and was recognized by the entire world. Then we have, obviously, Pope Shenouda, a child who was orphaned at birth. Someone that if you read his story at a young age, you'll say this kid has gone like through the system and out, right? But instead, he led the church for 40 years. He was a marvelous inspiration leader, charismatic, all kinds of things, all kinds of characteristics. We have Pope Tawadros and the president of Egypt, Sisi. Whether Pope Tawadros, his wisdom and taking the church through a very difficult time at the beginning of his papacy, right? Like the man was a pope for less than 3 days when Egypt went up, when they canceled the constitution, literally 3 days after he became pope. And yet he took the church, and he's still taking the church, and he's working hard as best as he can to keep the peace. The president of Egypt, everyone, I mean, November 11th, the thing that only happened on November 11th is we got a lot of jokes out of it, right? But this man is trying. He's fixing a 60-year-old messed up country, trying his best. Yes, nothing now, people are not seeing the solutions that they want now, but he's taken Egypt where you have world leaders now going to attend COP27, and Egypt becoming a leader in the environment. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of laughed, because when you go to Egypt, Mark will remember this, the minute you get off the plane, you smell and you cough. The reason I'm saying Mark will remember this, it was our first Egypt trip, and they all decided as soon as we got off Egypt Air on the stairs to stop and do the scene from Asad Aswad and cough. So that was something to remember. But this man is still pushing. He's trying, right? Gandhi, great leader for his people. Still, a lot of things that he's done for India is still remembered, still held to this day. I'm sure not everyone agrees with all these leaders, but there are so many things in them, characteristics in them, that we can look up to. Martin Luther King, I have a dream that one day, and I think that dream, we're seeing it, come to life. There's no more segregation. There's no more there's actually, sometimes we wonder, I'm not going to go political, but Black Lives Matter. I always say all lives matter, but he had a dream. He went after the dream, and the dream cost him his life. But he really believed that all men were created in the image of God. It doesn't matter the color of the skin, which was something very revolutionary at his time. Then we have our wonderful Prime Minister of Canada. We'll talk to him and about him later. Leader, right? What is the role of a leader? Leading people, obviously. Influencing people. If we go and look at the slideshow before, you'll see that there are people who influence, some on a small scale, some on a bigger scale. Commanding people, and guiding people. Okay, that's basically the role of a leader. A leader, how does that happen? We'll see through the presentation. But the role of a leader really is about people, okay? Very different from management. And keep that in your mind as we go forward. People become leaders by positions they achieve. They study, they do whatever they need to do, and they climb in the ladder of leadership / management. So it's by achieving that position. by personality and charisma. I remember when I was a kid in the 90s, there was a whole cult, David Koresh, and he ended up poisoning everyone in that cult. And he had attracted thousands of people in the States. Charisma. He would speak, and people were just, at that time in the early 90s, people were thirsty for something. And they found it in this man. He ended up killing most of them, but he's actually, I think he was under arrest or something, but it was a big thing at that time. So personality and charisma is another thing in leadership. Leader by moral example. Gandhi was a big thing like that. The moral example. He held morality. I always tell my students, Gandhi always said, one of his famous quotes, I would have been a Christian because of the Christ of Christianity, but I wasn't because of the Christians. He held morality at very high level. He knew what Christ was all about, but those who called themselves Christians were invading his country, were killing the poor, were not really helping. So his leadership came from that moral example. Power held. Trudeau. I remember last elections, we were watching the results, and I we knew who won, and so we turned off the TV, and we went up, and at that time, my 16-year-old, she came upstairs, turned the TV on. No, he can't have one. No, I don't want him to win. No, and Sophia, it's okay. People voted for him. People took into what he's saying, and they believed in him. So he's holding power, which is whatever, people put him in that power, and that's leadership through power. Intellectual leaders, a lot of the philosophers, a lot of the thinkers, they're intellectually, sometimes you hear about these writers, and they're very deep writings and so on, and then you listen to them and you're like, I'm so bored, please let's not talk, I'll just read your books. But they hold that leadership through their intellect, and leadership because of their ability to accomplish things. A lot of times, this is going to be very prominent in service, right? And you will see this in different things. Where, how many of you are currently in a service in the church? Good. Christmas trip is coming, right? It's going to be the same people, I guarantee you, that will volunteer for that Christmas trip. It's going to be the same people, I guarantee you, who will plan that New Year's Eve. It's going to be, it's just, it happens. Some people just take on that leadership, and because they have the ability to accomplish things, they become in the leadership role. I'm going to go through this all at once. Manager versus people. Remember, I told you, keep in mind, leaders are all about people. As a leader, I really care about my staff. I really care about how they feel, care about my students, care about I have the management piece, obviously, because I had to learn it, but the leader is very much like a people's person. You'll find that if you're a leader, you will have some management skills in you. And if you're a manager, you'll have the leadership in you. But a leader will tend to be more of a people's person. As we go through it, we'll explain this more. Manager focuses on things. There's a task at hand, has to be done. That's what needs to be worked on. They are very focused on doing things right. It doesn't matter who's there, who's part of it, what needs, it has to be done perfect. No room for mistakes. They plan a lot. They have the plan written, and it's almost like a checklist. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. The outcome is going to be this. Okay. Very organized. Okay. They will have the task. They will assign Mina something. They'll assign Mark something, and they will want to. This is it. We're going to work together. These are your tasks. Come report to me. The plan is this. We're very organized. They're very direct. Okay. They're very direct, and they direct. So they're not very involved. Once they've given Mark the task, they will direct him exactly who to talk to, what to do, and who to say things to. And they will just be around to make sure he's directing. They're very much in control and they follow the rules. There's no room for you not to have rules, okay, if you're a manager. Leaders, we focus on people. We like people. We actually love people. People are very important to us. The networking, the getting out there, the, you know, being with everyone, making sure everyone loves you and you love everyone, even if you can't stand the person, there's going to always be something good about them that you're going to have to work with. They do the right thing, okay? So sometimes it will not make sense to people around you what you're doing if you're a leader, because you see some things because you see the person, not the task. And so you're about to do something, you're going to do it the right way. They love to inspire. They love people. They love feeling that they've accomplished something when the people speak to them and they come and they want to learn more from them. They inspire them. They want to be very much involved in the people's lives. They're very much influential. Whether they're the quiet leader or they're the loud leader, they're very influential. They motivate. You'll find a lot of encouraging messages. Plug your ears more. When I'm telling my teachers off, I will tell them off on that group, but I will always end with a very positive. We're a team. We're in this together. Let's do this. We can do this. But I will tell them off. I'll give them peace of my mind if I don't like something, because as leaders, we invest a lot in our tasks. We love to build. We love to build people. We love to build teams. We love to build, you know, ideas. Building is very much in us, and shape entities. It just becomes part of who you are, and you become part of what it is. Just you're very invested as a leader versus the manager who's kind of very disconnected. Now, like I said, there's going to be common activities between both: planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. I'm going to go through each one. Planning. When planning, a leader will devise strategy and sets direction, okay? There's always a vision. In the past few weeks, I've had the opportunity to speak to multiple congregations in the States that are planning to open schools. And the Coptic school movement is coming back, whether back home or here in North America. People with everything happening in education are very much interested in bringing and reviving the idea of Christian education. So every time I've spoken to someone, I'll give them the whole spiel about, you know, school and planning and doing, and I'll say, but what's most important is to have someone who leads the team of others who have a vision and they believe in the vision. And that's the strategy that you go with. A true value of a leader is not measured by the work they do. A leader's true value is measured by the work that inspire others to do. I'll say a story that's going to sound a bit silly, but believe it or not, there are jobs out there in our country right now here, and people are not coming for them. So we have a before and after school program for the younger group kids in the school, and we usually had no problem hiring teachers like before and after school, university students, new immigrants that speak English well, people who are just looking for a few hours in the morning, a few hours in the afternoon, and then they could come and help in the school. This year, since July, we've posted up, and for 4 months, nothing. And so we had a couple of teachers who volunteered, and then they started to feel very tired because they're there from 7 in the morning and all the way to 4, and they're with kids all day. So I jokingly said, if there's no before school teacher, I'll come in, but resolve the after school situation. And I should have not joked because for 3 weeks, I was the before school teacher that was running the before school program. I enjoyed about 6 or 7 kids. I think those kids talk before waking up. So by the time they come to school, the radio is on like full force. So by the time they left my office at 8:30, like this is an hour and a half of nonstop chatting. I have one kid whose father is a very successful mechanic. And so she would stand at the window and name every single car brand, the make, the year, and give like a full report to all the other students. So it was hectic. And I go to my office early. I have no problem being there, but going to my office early and then watching those kids was a bit hectic. And then I had a teacher come up to the BASP coordinator and said, I'll do it. I'll do it before school. I said, are you sure? She has a little girl. She said she's volunteering for it. She wants to do it. So she started to do it. And her husband, the first day I'm coming in and he's coming in with like 4 coffees. I said, that's a bit of, that's a lot of coffee. He said, I just want to thank you. I said, why? He goes, because of you going in and doing the before school, my wife said, this is by example. If she's doing it and her day doesn't end at 4 like hours, why don't I step up and help? You inspire, you help others to see and as the weeks went on, a couple of more teachers came up to the plate, and now I don't have to do before school anymore. But I did suffer for a good month. And they create visions. Like I said, when I was talking to the priests about the schools, about any service that you're doing, about anything, you need to have the vision. Don't lose sight of that vision. And things are not easy when you're in leadership, okay? Whether you're leading in your class or leading in a grade or leading in a service, sometimes you'll get frustrated. And I'm going to tell you, kids are getting more difficult. Parents are becoming a lot more difficult. So things are not getting easier. Abuna was saying in the sermon this morning, one of the worst things that happened during COVID is the unsupervised technology that our kids were exposed to. We're dealing with really big problems with technology, with all the apps, with everything. And I we all lived through COVID, so it was hectic on us as adults. It was hectic on the kids. So making sure that that vision is in place, even when you're going to serve the tough group of kids. You're all planning to or preparing to serve youth, teenagers, who are amazing. They love you one day, they hate you the next week. They're they're mad at you in the morning. They're friends with you at night. They're going through a lot of confusion already as is, and because of that, you will also sometimes lose that passion. Don't lose it. Keep that vision in front of you. Organization. Now, I have to admit to this. Getting people on board for strategy, communicating, and networking. When I have my staff come into the office and I say, I have a crazy idea, they run the other way and they leave my office because they know that the minute I say this, it could be planting 1,000 trees in the city of Mississauga with the entire school. It could mean collecting X amount of dollars for an initiative that we're doing for a global organization. It could be whatever it is. So they know. But I was told by one of my VPs recently, she said, you drive us crazy. You tell us these crazy ideas. She goes, I was one of the people that was against the plant. We did plant 1,000 trees in Mississauga, by the way. I'm not using that as a rhetorical example. But she said, when you said it, I thought she's nuts. And I said, and then as the time went on, and I saw the day, and I saw how it happened and what happened in it, I realized that there's a bigger thing. We did this in April, right after masks were permitted to be off our faces. We went out, we got the kids to be involved, we got the community to be involved, we brought the mayor to plant the first tree in the school. We went to a park and the kids actually learned how to plant. The little ones stayed back and they planted their own. Each kid went home with a tree. And because of this, we were able to really network. And it was right before our massive production. Because of our networking, we got $25,000 worth of marketing for our production at $0. At the time when I was telling the teachers and I was telling my administration team, They thought I was crazy, but it's that seeing that getting people on board, sometimes it becomes hard, but once they're on board, when you go down, they're actually the ones pushing you up, which is an amazing thing. Don't underestimate the value of having a good team. You don't become successful on your own. You have to rely on really good people. That's very true. When you're serving in that class, or when you're serving in that grade level, when you're serving in that youth ministry, you're not on your own. When he sent them out, he sent them 2 by 2. He did not send them 1 by 1. He sent them out 2 by 2. And that's so important for you as a servant to realize that as you begin your ministry in youth. Directing work, empower people and become a cheerleader, okay? Remember how I was telling you there's a bit of management in everyone who's a leader? I'm a cheerleader, yes, and I love to empower my staff. I love to empower my students. And I think I really drive my students crazy as well as my staff, but I really feel like this is a very important part of things. But I also have a little bit of a control issue, okay? I like to have my nose in everything. And so this is kind of the piece of management I have. When we were packing the things that we were going to give away to the poor in our very first trip to Egypt, I brought the kids out Saturday night, and I was there. And I didn't need to be there packing, but I want to be there. This is kind of my control piece, that I want to know where everything is and what's happening and everything. But the rest of it, the empowerment of people and the cheerleader, remember I told you, I could tell my staff off, but at the end I will, without you, we can't do this. I need you on board. I need you to do this. When you're serving youth, it's going to come out a lot. That cheerleader, the encouragement. Be very careful not to be fake. Because if there's one thing that youth will know, is if you're real and if you're fake. If you're genuine, it's very interesting. I had 2 teachers who left the school this year. Both of them, one was there for 8 years, one was for 5 years. Both, when they left, the genuine one, I could see it with the kids. They planned the goodbye, they respected to the last minute. Things were very calm, transitioning was calm. The other teacher, when they left, it was almost, yes, they're gone. And I'm like, for 5 years, you guys didn't say anything. Well, that teacher was snitching on us. She was doing this, that, and that. And all this stuff that was kept in for the past years came out. Kids know, kids see right through us, okay? And that kid that's going to drive you crazy, like I said, 2 by 2. You could be the cheerleader, but they could tell if you're a fake cheerleader. So don't be that fake cheerleader. Success isn't just about what you accomplish in your life, it's about what you inspire others to do. When you're a cheerleader, when you believe in that teenager, I always say a story here. Many years ago in Asyut, there was a little guy who was so crazy to the point that his mother took him to the priest of the church and told him, keep him here. I don't want him at home. That little guy became, God rest his soul, Father Marcos Marcos, the first priest that came for the Coptic Church in North America. Okay? So if that mom, if we give up on those kids that are difficult, we would not have what we have today, and in many ways. And I keep saying this, so be the cheerleader, empower the youth, believe in their talents. I always say, find something good in everyone. As hard as it is, there's always something hidden, something good you could bring out from that young man, young woman that you're serving. And that way you'll be able to empower them and cheer them on. See the controlling piece. All right. So leaders achieve control by motivating, inspiring, giving a sense of accomplishment. If you are as a servant leader, turning this as your accomplishment or your, you know, there was a successful summer Maharagan competition because I did, that's not a servant leader and that's not leadership. That giving the sense of accomplishment, the accomplishment happened because everyone's hand was on deck, because everyone was trying their best, because everyone wanted and believed, okay? And so that sense of accomplishment, this will give you, you know, the kids that came out, the parents that brought their kids out, the other servants that gave maybe half an hour, while you gave 5 hours, but they also gave half an hour of their time. All without all these little things, it wouldn't have happened. So that sense of accomplishment, it's not your accomplishment, it's always our accomplishment. The minute it becomes my accomplishment, I promise you it will fall and tumble. Motivating others, inspiring them to do well and to lead, that's how you control. And then, like I said, if you have that piece in you that I have, where you're actually kind of your hand is in the pot all the time, I teach myself now, and it's hard to back off a little bit. I have multiple assistant principals, and I put things in her hand, and I'm just like, just copy me on email. I won't look, right? But it's very important that once you've given that task, that you trust the people, you motivate them, you inspire them, and it will succeed. All right. So the traits of a leadership, intelligence is at a higher level, more of like people smart. Yes, we leaders will like to study a lot, but it's more of the social intelligence piece is much higher in a leader than it is in the management. They like I said, to study, but let me phrase this properly. We like to study what will help us lead, like in our area of interest. You'll find us very knowledgeable, and people like really tend to be more interested in what they're studying. Their knowledge is very high. Because of the social intelligence, they pick up bits and pieces of things around them. They will notice things that a manager won't notice because they're very people oriented, and they become able to get things done because of all those things. Now the personality trait, obviously I've been talking since you guys started. Verbal facility, we're able to get up and talk and start and not end and get the message across. There's no problem. Honesty, leaders will say things the way it's supposed to be said, but properly, so that they don't hurt. Because remember, they like the people. They will not hurt people, but they will tell them probably in a very nice, mean way. Okay. So honesty is very big, and because of their honesty, anytime someone around them is not, it hurts. Okay. The initiative, there's never a dull moment with a leader. Always on their feet, always thinking of creative ways to keep going and to initiate things. In your service, you'll find that the servant leader will always be the one that's going to take the kids to the food bank, that will plan to do a fundraising competition, that will do like a volleyball night, that will do tasbiha, that will do the initiator. Because if you put that leader in a class and tell them, give a lesson Friday night and that's all you need to do, and go outreach, that's it, that person's going to get bored really fast. Aggressive here, not in a bad way. Okay, like I don't walk around as a leader, I don't want, although I'd love to punch something, I don't do that. Okay, but aggressive, when you want something done, you'll always find a way to do it. Always. There's taking no for an answer is not a choice. Okay, so but you do it very nicely, but the aggressiveness comes from like there's no in my book. Self-confident, you even see that with little kids. Okay, if you go on a playground at a school or in a park or whatever, there's going to be that one or two kids that are very confident and that will be leading others and convincing them of like that this sand is magical, and the kids will be like, how is it magical? And then they'll start explaining and whatever, and the confidence in their storytelling, you could actually just see it right on. Ambitious, very ambitious. Okay. A leader does, the walls don't stop a leader. Okay. So yani, that wall thing, the concept of, you know, we're in four walls doesn't work. I joke about this a little bit, and it comes with originality. We always say when the world shut down, I decided to come up with a crazy idea, for example, where we created a full high school diploma accredited by the Ontario Ministry of Education online. We had no option. Our lifeline of getting students, international students to come in was shut down because they're all from China. We used to have like 15 to 20 students. This year, after 3 years of COVID, we have 2. So this had to be another way of coming out. And people, if you look at it, people are, you're crazy. We had teachers come in, record in the summer with their masks on, take the mask for the recording, put it back on. We would sanitize and clean, and the ambition had to go on, because once that happened, everyone was on board, everyone was excited, and originality. Sociability and adaptability. Remember, I told you guys, people are very important. They're very social. Even when you're partially introvert, like if you ask a leader who's working with people all day long, what would you like to do? To go out with friends or stay home? A lot of times they'll say at one point it's just staying home, quiet. But if you put them in any setting, it's like the social life of a party, right? And adaptability, things happen, you're gonna have to adapt to what's happening. COVID happened, servants had to adapt to teaching that lesson online on Zoom and get the kids to turn on the cameras and pray to God that there's nothing inappropriate in the background in the room that shouldn't be there. Like adaptability, we had to, I think leadership, human leadership came out, but you as servants during that time was very difficult as servants. I know as educators it was, so I'm servants, even more difficult. But we adapted, right? Now, when I was a kid, these were my favorite books. Anyone who remembers them, please tell me I'm not that old. Thank you. I really appreciate that I'm not that old. Okay. They were actually the first set of books that I got when we moved to North America 33 years ago. But there are so many leadership styles. Okay. And we're gonna go through each one of them. And then I will we'll go through the characteristics, and then I will open the ground for you guys to kind of shoot at me and say everything that you said was wrong, which is fine. The first one is autocratic leadership. Okay. This is the person that allows very little input from people. My way or the highway. I like to do this way. I want to do it this way. So you don't tell me what you want as a servant with me under my coordination, or as a kid in my youth group class. I don't care what the topics you want to hear. They're not important for me, because there's a curriculum that we're going to follow, and there's something like that topic later on. An autocratic leader requires them to make all the decisions, and they're very much dedicated to the process, more of a manager than a leader. A lot of times they leave the group feeling like they aren't trusted. Okay. When you're serving youth, trust is a very important thing. So if every time those kids come and say to you, we want to do this activity, or we want to have, we want to do something creative on Friday night, instead of just sitting in the class, it's summertime, could we go have our class outside? You're like, nope, Abuna said we're sitting in that class, so we're going to sit in that class. That kid is gonna, okay, if they don't want me to go to McDonald's, they don't want me to scream in the parking lot and act crazy on Friday night. Trust me, they're nuts. I've seen them a couple of weekends ago, and I had to message Abuna saying, please send some servants over. Like the Adonis Plaza, I really think they turn off the lights there on purpose so our kids leave. Okay, so but that when you're in that class, listen to their ideas, listen to their input. Sometimes they're not as crazy, but if you're an autocratic leader, you won't listen to them, and so the trust will not be there. they tend to create very high structured, okay? I will never forget this. I was in grade 10. We were sitting in the, what is now the new baptismal room in the small church in St. Athanasius. And our servant walked in and she was going to give us the talk, the sex ed talk. She walked in with, you know, the Josh McDowell book. It's a hard cover. It was about 500-page book. She slammed it on the table. She said, today, no questions, no talking, nothing, just listening. I will be speaking about a very important topic. Grade 10 for me was many years ago. I still remember exactly what happened. Do you think we heard a letter she said? That was an autocratic leader. Discourages out of the box ideas, okay? She was a young servant and we had a tunt. The tunt would invite us to her house on a Saturday, once every 3-4 months, to bake cookies together and to have a small get together at her house. And then we would go out and do a service together. For tunt to be out of the box and the young servant to be very rigid, very vivid in my memory till this day, okay? Establishes rules. Remember I told you, no breathing. Like, I'm glad she allowed us to breathe that day, but the rules were set the minute she walked into the class. And they're very clearly outlined. So you better be quiet, okay? A democratic leader. This one, you have to have a good team of people with you ready to do this, because a democratic leader has to take everyone's opinion about everything. Let's vote. Let's choose together. Okay, guys, you don't like the topics in the curriculum for high school? No problem. What are all the topics that you like? Because sometimes extremes, okay? They love to take the opinions. Members of the group feel very engaged. They're more engaged in the process, and creativity is like their number one. Yeah, and let's be creative. Forget the curriculum, forget SUS COPS curriculum and people studied and did for many years. Forget let's figure it out together. And creativity is very big. Do you guys see a problem that might come out from this? Or from the first one? Besides, I still remember the autocratic leader. They lose the vision. What else? If you are on the idea giving side and your idea is not taken, closed, done. I'm not listened to by my servant. What else?
The problem with getting everyone's ideas is, like, how do you give it to deliver them and execute them, or just taking ideas for
I learned that lesson the very hard way when you were saying it. First year teaching, I was teaching grade 3. And coming out of Teachers College, they tell you a lot of creative things, that they want parents engaged. So I made the mistake of writing a letter, sending it home, and telling the parents who I was and what I love to do with their kids and so on. And I gave them a piece of paper at the bottom to write down their ideas. Yeah, أنا مش عايزة express ideas اللي جت, but if I would have done it, I think I would have left teaching altogether. And I remember learning the lesson the hard way, because in a private school, you send something like this, and then the parents take the time and sit and write and send it back to you, and you don't do it. The next thing you know is you're in the principal's office being questioned, why didn't you do this? Now, there was one parent who was not happy that I did this. And all she wanted was for me to have a tutoring club at lunchtime and after school. I had 2 kids at home. I stayed already at school until 4:30, 5 o'clock, because I needed to finish everything before going home to the kids. Abuna was Abuna, so it was like I don't have any other options. Like, so that parent, it took us a while because of the ideas. Today, both her kids graduated. In fact, one of them actually now finished his master's degree in engineering. And that parent is at our school every Tuesday till this day, still helping out but it took a long time for me to explain to her that her idea was amazing, but I can't do it. So that losing the vision and the expectations of people become very high. With the autocratic leader, what do you think the idea would be? And the problem would be?
People feel like they are more less than they are.
Mhm.
Whatever you want.
They end up, that's exactly it. With an autocratic leader, at the beginning, maybe they'll like the idea and how he's taking over doing everything. But then as time goes on, it's whatever you want. Why are you bothering telling us? Right? If you're gonna still do what you want to do. It's a fine line and it's hard to do sometimes, but I think combining both sometimes I'm not saying as a leader you don't take those decisions. There are going to be times where you're going to make that decision because you see one, two, three. There's a joke in my office, but there's a girl who made me a picture of myself, and she wrote, "Mrs. Wasfi is always right," and so it's on my office. And then my kids took it, and for Christmas one year they said, "Mommy's always right." I don't like this. And what did I say? But I'm not always right. I'm not always right. But sometimes I will see things from different perspectives. And so people will assume that I'm always right, but it's okay. Well, don't tell students, right, Mark? I'm always right. I sent this guy off. uh, Task-oriented leaders. Okay. A few years ago, we had this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful retired man come in to save the world. This was about 10 years ago. And there's something called progressive discipline. Okay. So كل واحد بيفهم progressive discipline بطريقة. One person will understand it that the first time the kid does something wrong, you speak to them. Second time there's a detention. Third time there's a suspension and a meeting with parents. And then what, like progressive discipline. هو كان مقتنع in the progressive discipline means every time that kid did something wrong, they would come into his office and he would write down what they did wrong. قعدنا a whole year where there was not a single suspension. As staff, we were very frustrated. Task oriented. This was his task. He's there for a year. He was a retired gentleman. This was it. هو جاي يعمل a task معين وماشي. Highly goal focused. Work efficiently towards predetermined objectives. This is the 9 to 5 person at work. This is the Friday night servant. You want me to serve? I want to serve high school. I want to serve university. I want to serve middle school. I'll be there at the beginning of service. I will do my job and I will leave. But don't tell me to do anything during the week. Don't tell me to do anything in the summer, over the breaks. I'm task oriented. If you, this is also the person, the servant, and who wants the coordinator to write them. You should do 6 visits every month. Your target is 6 visits. Your phone calls should be 12 phone calls. This is the servant that really likes this. I will tell you, I was not one of those. I actually, it threw me under the bus the minute my coordinator would write down, if you did not do 4 visits this month, you have not met the quota. Okay, so this is not me. But a task oriented, this will be it. Style of leadership is it's less concerned with individuals and teams performing the work just as long as the work is being done on time and meeting the required standards. They will define the roles within the team. Mark, you're going to do this. Mina, you're going to do this. And خلاص هنعملها. And they like to establish the process and procedure and monitor progress. Mark, did you visit 3 people? Yes or no? Did you call 5 people? No. Okay. Mark, but the process is, the progress is, and you're holding up the whole grade, right? Everything is focused towards achieving the task of getting the outreach done of 12 people every month, right? Task oriented. I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not saying this is bad. But there is going to be a little bit of an issue with it. What do you think is going to be the issue?
There are no people oriented. The checkbox then.
The checkbox, yeah. Perfectionist. Yeah. What else? Sometimes you can't visit the 3 people, but you visit one kid who hasn't come to church for months and you bring them. But that visit took a few days or took a few times. But they're so task oriented that you did not meet the quota. So because I was on the receiving end of such leadership, I will tell you I didn't like it. I'm very much into I'm going to outreach. I'm going to do everything you want me to do, but I want to do it in the people-oriented way. Okay, the free reign leadership or laissez-faire. When the team is highly capable, this can work. But if the team is not highly capable, forget about this working. Team members are able to analyze the situation. Their close monitoring of decision is not needed because they're very laid back. Ayman, I think it was you. No, was it many years ago? Someone said they had a boss at work that was like this, very laid back, didn't really care about what's happening. People just carried the job. Their full trust with the team. Look, I trust my team at work. I trust my staff 150%. I actually get in trouble with the people in authority when they say to me, "You defend your staff," and I tell the teachers, I'll say, "I'll defend you in front of everyone." But between you and I, when you mess up, you're gonna hear it from me. But that person has full confidence they're coming to be the coordinator or to be the youth servant, the cool one. I no longer serve in Sunday school, or I no longer serve in middle school. I am now a high school servant. I am now a university servant. They trusted me, so I'm just going to sit back and relax now. I got what I want, right? They forget that when they started serving, it was in kindergarten and it was their happiest days of their lives. They forget what service is all about. This is not suitable for lesser experienced, employees, but also servants, or how would that translate in a class, in a high school or university group or middle school class? How would that translate? That's the least of, chaos is a gentle, proper Deba word. Very much chaos. What else? They never achieve. There's loss of engagement, loss of the vision. Again, they will not be able to get anywhere, and the chaos will come from the kids. This is the. I think kids would like this class because that's the servant who let them do whatever they want to do. I always say this from the education perspective. Think back to your favorite teacher, and it will be the teacher that was strict but fun. The teacher who had the rules but was so engaged with you that they did not have to remind you of the rules because you wanted to please that person. Think to the worst teacher you had, and you'll find this. I have a teacher, a couple of teachers who are amazing people. But with everything that happened during COVID, dealing with kids now, they're like, tell me what you want me to say and I'll say it. Because I don't want to be the mean person all the time. And I'm like, what happened to you? You're one of my meanest and coolest. All right. So it's an interesting combination. Bureaucratic leader. This is the one they're concerned with people doing work well, as it works for them for itself. They follow rules and regulations and are therefore less creative and innovative. How many of you would like to sit in that Sunday school class where the servant is less innovative? Just, we're here together. Let's stand up to pray. Let's read the Bible. No questions till we're done. That's a bureaucratic leader. They have a job specific specification to follow and they deliver on it. You want me to do the 5 visits? I will do the exact 5 visits that you want me to do. They lead by the book and don't stray from their chosen path. They go to a visit and they find someone who is really struggling with something. They read the Bible, they pray, and they leave. They fulfill the requirement of going to that visit. Who cares about that kid that's struggling? Okay. The book says, go visit. The book did not say, go visit and take care of the kid. It says, just go visit. So that's kind of like the government, Hafiz مش فاهم. That person that just does it because they have to, and that's it. Sorry, this is the person on trips. When someone breaks the rule, they couldn't care less about the reason for breaking the rule. That kid needs to be burnt at the stake. And then when Abuna intercedes, fine, let them go back home. That's the kind of person. The rule is no visiting rooms. They visited a room. They go home right now, or I stand, make sure, or I leave. And that's that kind of the book. Charismatic leadership style. They have great awareness of their surroundings. This is kind of the person that knows everything that's happening of everything, and if they don't, they kind of get the sense of things. They have great empathy and feelings, and they have opinions of those they are interacting with are very important. They're very people focused and forge meaningful relationship. Okay. Appearance is often everything, and a charismatic leader spends a lot of time perfecting how they come across to others. Okay. How do people see me? Do people like me? Because it's so important what people think. People want to be around them, work with them, and follow them in their endeavors, whatever it may take. And they are willing to put themselves out there and take personal risk in order for them to get their idea and pursue the ideals. Okay. This is a really cool youth servant. Okay. There's one small, tiny issue with that personality. That's one. I could see something else too. It is about them. It has to do, if you go through the idea, starts with an A. Appearance is often everything. They want to be the perfect image. Okay, if you take that piece out, this would be like the ideal person to put in youth ministry. Take the appearance out, and like I said, with time, ego will go. But a lot of times, especially if you're transitioning from Sunday school to youth group, or from middle school to high school, or from high school to university, يعني هنا بيبقى I'm now moving up. You don't realize that when you move up, it's really a downgrade, not an upgrade. You're missing out on the innocence and the purity of the child, unless you come back to become a child. Also, because they work so hard on becoming a charismatic person, they sometimes really lose themselves in the process. They burn out very fast. They're so tired. They want people to follow and do, and they want to show, and that person burns out quite fast. But if you take out the appearance piece, I think this would be kind of the servant that you want. That servant that will stand up and speak and attract everyone. And kids will just be, and they don't have to be loud speakers. Sometimes a charismatic speaker is like, I'm going to say this, Ambangeros. Anyone here heard Ambangeros speak? Very quiet. Very quiet. He's not very quiet, but when he speaks, he's very quiet. He's got a heavy Australian mixed with British accent. But guess what? There is something about him that makes the kids just become mesmerized. There is a charisma. We joke, we joke about this all the time because he's now a very cool bishop. He's the one archbishop as the title, official title. He attended the Queen's funeral. He attended Prince Harry's wedding, and he said a prayer. So there's other charismatic things, but if you hear him speak, he's very quiet. But at the end of the talk, Evangelos will tell them to do something. Anyone knows exactly, and they know he's going to say that, so they're listening. Okay, charismatic does not mean one of those like loud priests or loud bishops. Sometimes I thought I've attended priests that were jumping on pews, and I have no idea what they were saying. And I've also attended others who are very quiet, but the charisma comes from just the way they are and the way they speak. All right, relational oriented leadership style. They seek to establish meaningful relationship with the people they work with and the ones that they serve. They aim to utilize their emotional connection to the max. Okay, they relate to the people. You know, a teacher will come in, or a student applying to university comes in, and I'll say, okay, so let's sit down and talk about what you want to apply to. Do you like it? Is it your dream? Is it what you want to be? Or is it what mama and baba want? You know, relating, stop laughing, relating to them, putting that, making their vision their own. That you know everything about them and you want to maximize that relationship. They have advanced levels of emotional intelligence. They are required effective relation-oriented leadership. It enables them to empathize with the people, to feel their pain, to know they want to sympathize or empathize, joy and happiness or sad. Understand the point of view when making decisions. Okay, this is the servant who will know why, you know, this kid is climbing up a wall because of something that they're going through at home that no one else will know. Even if they don't know the exact details, they know something is up because they've built that relationship with that kid. Their style of leadership encourages effective teamwork and collaboration through enhanced relationship that exists between team members. So there's always that piece where you're not on your own as a servant. You're responsible for those kids. You're working with other servants. You have a coordinator. You have a priest. You have the parents. It's a full group. It takes a village to raise a child, right? Relationship-oriented leaders are very personable. Their doors always open, and they have genuine interest in the well-being of others. Okay, they actually really care, and they care a lot to a great extent, so that people will really go to them and will really find themselves very attracted to be like to have them as their confidants. Okay, leading us to the best type of leader. But do you see anything here, good or bad? Do you see it in your services? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The kind of person that when they care too much and they think that they will move back to
The emotional piece burns out. The emotional piece really burns out. Taking yourself out of that situation is very difficult. A few years ago, I got a call at 3:30 in the morning from one of my friends who also happened to be a staff member. A car accident happened, and a parishioner from our church who happened to be leaving behind two young people. One of them had graduated from the school, and one of them was friends with my daughter. And Abuna and I ran over, and quickly I found myself, I had two options. I'd have to get emotionally, and I'm very high on emotions, or I have to set myself back. And I found myself giving tasks to people because his daughter was starting exams in university first semester 2 days later. So someone needs to contact the university and defer the exam. Some of the emotions were very high inside. I couldn't believe what was happening. But sometimes if you're an emotional person, be very careful, because in situations you need to, or else, like you said, you'll burn out, you'll link too much that it will hurt you at the end, and then you won't be of any help. Anything else with this kind of leadership? Okay, before we go to the last slide, if I were to ask you to create the ideal youth servant leader, what would be characteristics from each one? I'm going to help you cheat because I'm a nice person. I'm going to go to the very first one, the autocratic leader. What would be one? It doesn't have to be a full characteristic, it could be even a small piece of characters. Decision making. Do you all agree? Anything else you like from this guy or this girl? Decision making structure, okay. Mark, you're nodding. You agree. Focused.
Outline, like, have a clear outline. If you don't have a framework,
Okay, so direction or a big picture, a vision, we'll take that from this person. Democratic leader. Okay, encouraging creativity, open to ideas. They listen. I'll tell you some, sorry, go ahead.
I just like the idea, like, either we give the final say, like, listen, bro, people, like, at the end of the day, if there's no one assume responsibility to make the final decision, no matter how democratic you are, how creative, and whether how you do it. Again, it can go back to, so being, make it clear that I still have, retaining the final say is important. Yeah, doesn't mean everybody will work on idea, but it can't be just, for the situation.
I like that last sentence. You took it out of my mouth. When you're in leadership, listening to people around you is very important, because your voice could be very loud. Okay, it doesn't mean that everyone's going to vote on things, or that you're going to listen to every single breath that's being said. Like, the ideas sometimes go wee crazy. Okay, but listening to the ideas coming together, maybe formulating or tweaking your idea based on what you just heard from people will really help. At the end of the day, you're going to have to be responsible for a decision that you're making. So you better be able to back that decision up. Okay. So, and I'm going to tell you from experience in leadership, backing up your decision by saying everyone says is the dumbest thing that you're going to do. Okay. Like, no, we talked about it. We came up with these ideas. Here are the things that we're doing. Here's why I thought about this. This is how I want. And it's okay. Once the people talk, you're going to say, okay, but here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? The back and forth, I think, with a democratic leader, without the voting of everyone. And if you're going to vote for everything, especially if you're a coordinator, it might help. But if you're within your own class, وكل مرة هنvote. If we sit quietly, هنعمل إيه؟ إحنا مش هنقعد quietly. We're going to spend the whole lesson voting on what the outcome is. Task oriented. Do you like this person at all?
In some situations, yes. Like, not in every scenario, but there has to be at some point, like, you're taking kids to the 50 kids to the treasury.
Yeah, I'm leaving them there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there has to be at some point the task oriented, this person to do this, you're accountable for that, it's important. So it's not like everything here is horrible, right?
No, it's nothing is horrible. No, that's true. Well, besides the fact that I'm gonna leave all 53 there, I'll come back. Parents will love me then. I'm not threatening, but we're going to the SACA, Special Forces. We're spending a day there, and I said, if you bother me, I'll just let them know that you're bothering me. They'll take care of you. I mean, that's where they eat bugs for lunch. So, task oriented is very important. I agree with you. Even with we talk about this in prepare to serve. When I'm teaching the how to prepare lesson, I always say give tasks to the kids. Okay, you're setting up the chairs, you're bringing the Bibles, you're turning on the lights, you're leading prayer. Give them the tasks to do and have them become part of the process. So task oriented is good as long as it's on the ground. Ash, and sometimes if you're 100% task oriented, what's going to end up happening is forget it. You've lost that link that you need. This person, life is good. I had 10 kids out of 25. Why are you complaining? Anything good with this guy or this girl?
Usually, they have that to back them up. Otherwise,
They fall through the cracks and fast. So this would be someone good if they have the solid, strong team.
or they create a foundation. Like I know leaders who hire people that can help them do that, so they can always focus on the bigger picture. So they let them manage the work.
I was watching a little bit on Raouf Labour. His wife and him are actually the original initiators of the Children Cancer Hospital in Egypt, 57357. He just passed away yesterday, a couple of days ago, and his funeral was yesterday. I was listening to his daughter who worked with him, and she said he was very much in the big picture. And what was good is because he trusted his team, they would give him the idea, they would talk about the idea, he would give his feedback back and forth, and then he lets them go. But that took so many years, she was saying, so many years. This man went into prison and out of prison, lost money and gained money, did everything. And yesterday, the funeral led by the Pope and had like mega people there. Had the president of the the bank, Bank Markazi, was sitting front row centers, like the money of Egypt was sitting right there. But it's interesting to hear his daughter talk exactly. On the outside, it seems like he's kind of the guy that sat back and relaxed, but it's been a journey since 1976. It didn't stop, right? So if you have the good foundation or the good team, then you're able to do this. Okay. This person. Which part in this person would you like to take?
Are usually needed in like legal services, accounting.
Yeah, but in youth group ministry, in youth group ministry, they might be needed now.
Same for like you need to keep track of everything. This is one like they have the KPIs and they follow KPIs and they say yeah things are going well.
Yeah.
Usually they come as supporting leaders. They are not like
They can be the forefront in the service leader.
but they provide the leaders.
It's like the team of Pope Shenouda and Metropolitan Bishoy. That team was exactly that. Like Amba Bishoy was the one that Pope Shenouda, His Holiness was amazing, but when it came to rules and regulations and investigations, and it was Amba Bishoy. And it's almost like he took the heat for everything. He's that guy, right?
If you don't understand or whatever, there is no rule budgeting. If you don't connect works, then we're in no shape or form, then why have it in the first place, right?
Yeah. Why have it in the first place? But I will tell you though, there's going to be times, even when you have the rule in service, you're gonna have to look back and say, okay, this is the situation, this is the rule. There's always going to be that. And I'm anti breaking rules, okay? You could kill me before breaking rules, but there's going to be a way around it so that you're not breaking the rule, but you're finding a way to continue to properly serve that person.
Sure. And this is a family that you didn't see the whole road.
No, you see it, but you find a way around it. You found a why. If you don't see it, if you pretend you don't see it, then we're going to a different problem. Because if you don't see it once, are you not going to see it 5 times, 10 times?
No, but okay, 5 10 times different story. But I mean, if you see it and you make the point that you see it and you find a way around it, you just mentioned kids see through, right? There was a maybe if I break it too.
I'll confess to you. This is a confession. I'm being recorded. I have a kid in school. This kid has been through a lot. I've known him since JK. I suspended him in SK. He's in grade 9, but I issued an out of school suspension in SK. I think that's like the meanest principal on the planet. And there's zero tolerance for disrespecting adults, regardless whether it's the custodian or the principal. You're going to respect all adults. I even make it a point that our contract says PCC teacher. It doesn't specify a grade, because once you're a teacher for all. So we're in Remembrance Day Chapel, and Fridays are casual Fridays, but we said for this day, because it's Remembrance Day, we want everyone in red and black. He decided he was wearing red and black pants. He didn't break the rule, but he put on a white hoodie, and I wish he even put it on. He had it on his shoulder. He didn't have it in his sleeves, and he had the hood on. And he went into the church. So one of my teachers went up to him and said, "Take this off." First time, he didn't do it. Second time, he didn't do it. So she went back, tapped him, and said, "Now." So he took it off and turned around and said, "F you." If I would have dealt with it by the book, he would have been at home suspended. So brought him in, and when I yell, you don't need this microphone, okay? You don't need a microphone, right, Mark? My voice is very quiet. It'll probably be heard in the 4th floor on the Ambamina, okay? I have no problem. So my megaphone went on, and I really yelled at him. He knows how much I love him. As much as he's nuts and drives me crazy, he knows that there's lots of love. And I said, "I don't even know what I'm going to do with you. Sit outside." Suspendable. 100%. No one could say anything. But this kid is struggling in math. It happened to have been the math teacher. We've been trying to make him go in and have peer tutoring for the past 2 months, and he has gone once in 2 months. So she said, "You know what? I have an idea." I said, "What?" She goes, "He comes to my room every single lunch hour till the end of the semester." That's almost 3 months of detention in her room at lunchtime. I brought him in and I said, "I'm not convinced of what they want to do with you, but I'll let it go this time because your teacher is being nice." I didn't close my eyes. I didn't bend the rules. I gave him the detention, which is actually for him. It's 1,000 times more than a suspension. A suspension will go home for 1 day and come back. That's why I'm saying don't close your eyes. That's what I mean, go around it.
Sure, but go around it is not like we're saying the same thing,
Okay.
right? Like, yeah, maybe first time it wasn't that.
لا، ما احنا بادئين من اس كي، احنا دلوقتي في جريد 9 مش فيرست تايم، احنا ولسه فاضل 3 سنين ان شاء الله واحد فينا هيفضل. بس that's okay. So our next person is the charismatic leader. What do you like about this person? Empathy. people focus. Yeah. One thing I didn't mention here, but I think something to flag as people who are going to youth ministry. If you're one of those charismatic leaders, be careful that the kids don't link to you for you, but they link to God through you. Because the minute, God forbid, that charismatic servant falls, a lot could fall around them. And I've seen it and I've experienced it as a young person, and I experienced it as an adult, and I've seen it happen. I've seen what it does. So be very careful that they're linking to that charismatic person in you, but they're linking to God actually through you.
I don't feel charismatic people are empathetic because I believe type 7 is more empathetic than I think the charismatic are more self-focused and they want to connect together.
I think the empathy here is not the empathy, the traditional empathy. I think the empathy here is the connection piece, the coolness, the one that will do the extra cool things to grab the attention.
They need people around them, feed and
Mhm.
this is why they interact with people, not because they are empathetic. They
Yeah.
really care about, they care more about themselves.
Yeah, but again, that's where the problem goes, right? When people actually are connected to them for them as a person versus connecting to God. Pope Shenouda was a charismatic leader, but you connected. I remember Stephanie Abuna Damadius' daughter in one of Sayyidina's visits. She was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and she went and kissed Sayyidina's hand. Sayyidina Baba Shnuda, when he saw kids, he melted, like literally melted. So she kissed his hand, فقعد لعب معاها وبتاع, and then she went home. And for the whole day, she was holding her hand like this. Yeah, Stephanie, I can't wash my hands because if I wash my hands, Pope Shenouda's hand will go away. Yes, it's خلاص بنتي kisses it. A whole day, we had to all work together as a team to convince her. But Pope Shenouda, his charisma came really from above. Like you felt you're in the presence, as Hazel McCallion used to say, in the presence of a man of God. And Hazel McCallion, what's her link, right? So there is the good charisma, and there is the one that we don't want.
I agree with that type 7 characteristics, they become the ones.
I agree. This one I like a lot. I think a combination. Remember, we were going through every leader. I'm telling you which piece you would take out to create the perfect youth leader. So this one, they seek to establish the relationship. Okay, that relationship piece is so important, but in a healthy way, in a very healthy way. That guy I was just telling you about, my friend who's in grade 9, that friend of mine, I've personally been working with the family along with some of the teachers. There was one teacher last year who oversympathized to a point that I, as the principal, could not talk to him if it was up to her. She built not a bad one, but an unhealthy sympathy. So that relationship turned from, a good, he knows how, like I keep telling you guys, he knows how much I love him. And he does not want, like, if you want to really threaten this kid, you tell him, if you don't stop, I will ask your dad to withdraw you and put you in another school. That's almost telling him, if you misbehave, you'll get a train that hits you, and that's it. Like this is how bad. But that teacher built that relationship where it was really unhealthy in the sense that literally we could not get close And we're reaping the results today. Like he's having a hard time building a relationship with other teachers because this one oversimplifies, did that personal relationship. So be very careful. And as youth servants, look, when I was younger, I'm still very young, but when I was a lot younger, I used to get frustrated with my mom because she was coordinating Sunday school many years before I was, born, and she still is coordinating Sunday school with Sola. But I used to always tell her, "You drive me nuts. Every time I come and complain about a kid, you tell me, معلش, الولد ده والبنت دي, they have a story. You have to be caring for them because now that I am in that leadership, there's not a single kid. Like my staff, they're getting tired of me saying, "Malish, this is a broken home. Malish, this is that. This is this. This is that. Dad's not here. Mom passed. Mom is overseas because grandpa's been dying for 6 months and leaving him with dad." There's always a story. And as servants, you need to build that healthy empathy and that healthy relationship where you can find the excuse, but that excuse does not mean that cancels out your role as a servant. The reason why is because I'm coming to the last slide, and this one, next time, it will be a lot about this topic. Servant leadership. This is what we are called for as servants. One of the most successful, even if you read secular books, you're going to find that servant leadership is really highlighted. And so a servant leader, there's empowerment. They have the ability to assist others in realizing their full potential. It's no longer about me. It's about what my students can do, my kids in Sunday school can do, okay? It doesn't mean that you're not doing the legwork. Last year for Christmas, we took on a big initiative where we were going to raise money for Haya Karima, Decent Life. And I brought in a group of 17, 18-year-olds. Actually, it was 16, 17 at that time. The oldest one turned 18 after we finished the collection. And I spoke to them about it, and I said, look, you guys need this for university application. This is a United Nations sustainability project. This is an Egyptian presidential initiative. And from what I'm hearing, even from church leaders, this is actually going above and beyond what anyone is expecting. It really serves the extremely poor and serves them well. They don't give them money in their hand. If they're a farmer, they're given a plot of land. If they're a business person, they're given a store. If they work with their hand and some sort of craft, they're given that. So I recruited those kids. I empowered them. I called the right people with the Mississauga News and whatever, and we went off on the initiative. The confession is I did a lot of the legwork behind the scenes, okay? But within 2 weeks, they raised 50,000, and they came into my office. I said, "We've hit the target, 50,000." One of them looked at me, "Not good." I said, "What's not good?" "I've been pied in the face. I've worn an inflatable snowman. I've done everything possible." It was very cute because they even got the little kids to give coins. I said, "So what's the point?" He's like, "If we get to 80,000, we'll be donating 1 million Egyptian pounds." And I said, "And how do I do this?" He said, "I don't know, miss. We need to figure it out." I realized at that moment I had empowered them so much that I'm now having to help them, because if I don't help them, this whole thing. And within 2 days, the 20,000 that was missing was collected. And so that's the empowerment. Seeing in them, it was very funny because one of them was being interviewed on a TV show. She goes, "I couldn't believe I was helping the president." I felt like he gave her a call and asked her to help him. But this is the empowerment. I saw something, and some of them, they have no clue what this is going for. They just liked the idea. There was something in it. They got involved. They got very involved in it. Standing back, followers have priority. They receive the credit for their work. I mean, I had myself and a couple of teachers worked with me on this, but if you Google Haya Karima and Flipatir, you're gonna find the whole talk is about the 16, 17-year-olds. We're in the background, yes, they mention our names, yes, in there, but it's all about those kids who took on that task. They believed in something, they were empowered, and so you stand back and watch. Humility, placing oneself in perspective. That's what we were talking about, the other leadership, the charismatic one. Get them to love your leadership, love God through you, not you, okay? Be very careful with that. Authenticity, true to oneself professionally, publicly, and privately. This is a big one. This is a big one. Social media today makes me sad. Sad. Because sometimes we're not Christians on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're Christians 24/7, 7 days a week. You cannot be teaching the kids to not smoke and you leave Friday night and you're vaping. Like, I don't know, like there's so many double standards in our lives and kids see right through, okay? So that authenticity cannot, we all have faults, we all have mistakes. We all have, our own struggles in our spiritual life, but we cannot be teaching something. We cannot be talking about fasting and we're not fasting. We cannot, it goes to the basics. We forgot the basics because we've taken on the titles of Sunday school or youth group, but we forgot that we're servant, not teacher, okay? And like I said, here it says professionally, publicly, and privately, okay? Be careful. Serving kids, regardless how old, is one day you're going to stand up there in front of him and he's going to ask you about those kids. And you better have set those standards for yourself before setting it up for them. Courage, taking risks, being innovative, overcoming fears. If we would not have had a priest by the name of Father Bishoy Kamel in 1978 push a group of 5 families to register a church and not an organization, we would not have had the Church of the Virgin Mary in Saint Athanasius today. Taking a risk. At that time, 5 families had moved from the Scarborough area, where the Coptic Church was very established, to no man's land called Mississauga. It was actually a brand new city. And then as time went on, Abuna Bishoy came, Abuna Bishoy Kamel, the saint. He happened to be here, and 2 of the families were his nieces. One of them, Uncle Suriel, God rest his soul, was married to one niece, and Uncle Behet Girgis, who's still with us, married to Abuna Bishoy's other niece, and 3 more families. And they wanted to register a Coptic organization called the Virgin Mary in Saint Athanasius. And he told them, he said, I'm going to ask Pope Shenouda, but I'm highly recommending that you register a church. And he took the map to Pope Shenouda and he said, there's Toronto and there's this place in this city called Mississauga. Where would you want this church? And Pope Shenouda pointed to Mississauga. So Abuna Bishoy came back to them in his next visit to North America and he said, you're going to register as a church. 5 families, how are they going to take care of a church? Took the risk. And that's the reason we have this church today. Accountability, holding self and others responsible for actions. Self first, then others. That's very important as a servant leader. Interpersonal acceptance, ability to understand others' perspectives. Okay? It's not about your point of view. You don't do what those kids did for me and made a picture that says Mrs. Wasu's always right or mommy's always right. There's always that piece that says there's others' perspectives. What do you think? What do you want? Listen to them. Sometimes it's as small as when you're talking to them and getting their ideas for talks. They're actually telling you what their problems are. They're telling you what they're struggling with without coming out and saying, I'm struggling with this. Stewardship, practicing service for the larger institution or society. This is a big thing for me. Okay. And yes, we are going to Egypt, and I'm very, when we go, I teach leadership in the mission course, and I always say this: there's a common language that God taught us called love. One of the biggest places, and Mark will remember this, one of the biggest places that we feel all those walls down is the Children's Cancer Hospital. It is so normal for us to go in there with Abuna, and we find a fully veiled محجبة منقبة coming with her sick child for Abuna to pray for them. And I tell the kids, you're not going to just serve, the other Christians. We're going to serve on many levels. That global, that he did not send them, he'd send them to Jerusalem, Judea, and to the ends of the earth. Your service is not only in your class. Your service is not only in the church. Your service is not only in the city of Mississauga or in your work or in your home. Your service is a lot bigger. Your impact is a lot bigger. I was joking with Amba Ma'ar one time, and I said, we've been working with the Ministry of Education in Egypt, and I usually write PCC. Because I don't want to offend them and write Flipatir. No, Flipatir is Christian, last time I checked. But we don't want to offend them and write Flipatir Christian College. I always say PCC. For some reason, the last time there was a meeting, I decided to send a presentation and write Flipatir Christian College. And I said, I'm not going to change it. This is who we are. And I have a picture with the Minister of Education sitting, and right under the Egyptian logo, there is the presentation that says Flipatir Christian College. أبا مار قال لي أدرى. قلت له ما إحنا يعني هو فلوباتير مش مسلم. Okay. But last time, just, I'm not saying impose the faith, but I'm just saying this is who we are. We're here to serve. We're here to, it's not just about being a Christian by name. I was talking to a visiting priest from Egypt yesterday, and I said, he was talking about the Canadian ambassador to Egypt, and he said, he said he grew up Catholic, but he left the Catholic Church, and he's now pretty much an atheist because of everything that was happening in the Catholic Church in Quebec. And I said to him, 80% of Canadians are Christians by name. And Abuna looked at me and goes, 80% of Christians are Christians by name. And I said, you're right, Abuna. So that stewardship, that practicing the service for a much larger scale, you're empowering those kids to go out and set an example. You're empowering them to stand up for their faith. Athanasius was 16. Okay, he's the same age as the kids that you're going to serve. I wonder if we have Athanasius hiding in our classrooms, but are too worried to stand up because there's so much loud. Next week, we're going to go through servant leadership, but in much more details and what the Lord is expecting of us as servants, and much more characteristics and much more depth with it. And the week after, God willing, you're going to take that and you're going to put it into a case study. I always say I baptize the cases. So they are actually evangelical cases, but coordinators are paid, and we don't pay coordinators. Sorry guys, if you're looking for a job, it's not going to be in coordination, but it's a good way to put things to practice. Right now, the floor is yours, and I'd like to hear your feedback, your comments, anything you want to ask. Go ahead. I like that when people want to say.
The impression I got from what you were saying is in terms of, living what we teach the kids. I feel like it might be like a perfectionist approach to being perfect.
Oh no. Remember what followed? let me take you back. I also said all of us were growing. We all have our struggles. We all have our spiritual struggles. None of us are perfect. The only person that's perfect is God. That's the only one that's perfect.
But it's up to be in balance.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example. I'm taking you back to my youth years. Okay, we had a young servant who was a friend of ours, and he a bit older than us, and he was an extremely heavy smoker. And the topic was about smoking and how we shouldn't smoke. And we all knew he smoked, so we tracked him. That's what I mean. Like what I mean is we're all struggling, and I always tell even like you don't think hatta when you're preparing the lesson that you know everything. There's going to be that kid that will ask you a question and you will have no idea what they're saying, right? You will not know everything, and it's okay with them to know that you don't know everything or that you're struggling. Guys, look, I'm still learning how to fast. It's hard with like whatever. Why don't we challenge ourselves this year to start the Advent from the beginning? And if we all fast as a class, we'll go out for, I don't know, not sushi is a very bad idea after Advent, but we'll go out to an open buffet together. Or we'll take it as a challenge for yourself. That's what I mean. None of us are perfect. And when you're in leadership, as a servant leader or as whatever leadership God puts you in, you're always there will be times where like, am I really doing the right thing? Because you feel like everyone's eyes are on you. And that's why none of us are perfect. And I joked and I said, Mrs. Wasi's always right. I mean, I rub it in their faces, but I'm not always right. And I sometimes say, Rabbina biyustur. Okay, literally, I can't tell you how many times God's hand has protected or has helped or has done some, and I find a loophole. It's funny because I'd be like in the middle of something and I have no idea, and I'm struggling, and I don't know what I'm supposed to say when I say something, and I find the teacher message me. I like when you're in action. I understand now what you're saying. I'm helping you out. Here's what the rest of the information is. Okay, so it's a struggle. We're all struggling. But what I mean is there's images that go up on social media, right? We're in a party. And you're telling, like I had an experience once. I was a coordinator for 2 years. And a wonderful young lady who was a servant with me, and she was amazing. But came a Friday night, and all the girls are in the class, and we're starting a lesson. My goodness, so and so is in the concert. We all wanted to go. She actually messages them pictures of a concert of someone that we had talked about to them of not going because there's some sort of inappropriateness to it. And I was like, okay, what my hair is like gonna be pulled up one hair at a time. That's what I mean. That the public, the private, we're all struggling, but there is some common sense and some limits. Once you become a servant, there has to be some things that you'll have to work. I hope I didn't scare you more. Did I? Mish, if I scared you more, it's okay. I'm scared myself.
I was scared myself when in 30.
Yeah, that's it. We're all work in progress. None of us are gonna ever be perfect. None of us had to like look at the highest ranks. None of them are perfect. But God works, right?
But what you're saying is like, be mindful of like teaching them something,
Yeah,
separate your personal life.
and don't put up an image. Like, be careful, hatta with the images that you share or whatever it is. When when we grow up in North America, we become desensitized to some things. And so what? We're in a party, and so what? We're at a wedding with a glass of wine, but we're just teaching them, about drinking, or we're teaching them about, appropriateness, or so if you get it's small things, but we become desensitized to it. But those kids are like they're hawks. And because we grew up here, or we've been here for a few years, some of those families that we're serving now, there's a culture explosion, which collision. Yeah, when we started serving, it's very different than what we're serving today. Okay, so that's why Yeah, yeah, that's very true. Like,
We don't fast, for example, we should teach them to fast and we should
work with them.
but not to tell them, yeah, it's okay. No, there you
Yeah, I'll tell you something about this. Last year, Jonah's fast. One of the servants decided to be very brave and said, okay, there is a liturgy at Nativity every day this week, for the 4 days of this week. Jonah's 3 days and the fifth for Jonah's feast. I will challenge you. I will go every day and I want you guys to come every day. Great challenge, phenomenal challenge. My kid woke up every morning. Now I forced her to wake up. Okay. I there are some things that I will make my kids do. I don't care how old they are or how big they are. They're under my roof. They follow my rules. First day راحت, that servant didn't show. The second day راحت, servant didn't show. Third day راحت, fourth day, Sophia has zero filters. Okay, she filtered for the first 3 days. By the fourth day, she couldn't filter. She's like, we were told that they will be there with us every day. I understand if she doesn't come once or twice, but all 4 days. And I said, maybe she's no, mom, she's not sick. We were on Zoom for whatever. Like, yani, that's what I mean. Yani, you teach them, set a target for yourself that you could also meet, or say, okay, guys, I'll be going one mass this week. See if you guys could beat me. See if you could go more. But don't say I'll be there every day. You don't show up. El filter hayoa, and I can't save you from it. So that's a big thing. Anything else?
I heard somebody ask this question recently about, because like it ties into the charismatic, the personal kind of style servants where they feel comfortable enough to come to you, and that's good, and you want to be able to have that relationship. But the question that person asked was, what about when they come to you about things that are like they're too open about certain things? And I don't know, like for let's say, I don't know. Well, I mean, not even that,
It
but
could be bigger
I
than they
don't know, whatever. I mean. So, and so you want to be like the boundary between friend and servant was the core of the question. How do you navigate that? Because you know, like even in your example with the grade 9 kid. So how does a servant go about navigating that boundary?
I'll open it to everyone and I'll answer at the end. Such a quiet group of gentlemen. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I don't serve high school kids these days. Last time I done this was like 10 years ago. But I want to look at it like how you deal with children, right? Like I have 2 teenager girls, right? I don't think they're afraid of telling me anything. But as my daughter always say, you're scary, Baba. Right? So it's I don't know how it happens, but you want to listen to them as much as you can, but at the same and you want to do the things that they want to do, but at the same time you want to be like you have some sort of discipline somewhere in the conversation. So they come to you and say, "We've done ABC and it's wrong." You want them to be able to come back to you again and say, "We've done this again wrong." So just having a them and just feeling until people in the next room feel or whatever, it's not going to help much, right? But at the same time, you want to take this as an opportunity to say, sure, so you've done this, it's wrong, and you realize it's wrong. And from the conversation there, I think the best thing you do is have them come to the conclusion what's wrong. Like say it's wrong because A, B, and C. I think, depending on the age, of course, but that's, any kid older than 7, 8 years old, whatever wrong they do, they probably can understand why it's wrong.
Below صدقني دلوقتي. Below 7 and 8.
So having them to come to this conclusion, you build this trust, you build this, you're not the young guy that they will be scary person, you know, he's gonna be with you, but at the same time, you take this as an opportunity to mentor them, if you would, or, you know, what the right thing to do, moving forward. Now, I don't think we'll always succeed at this, but that's what I'm trying to do with the thing. It seems okay. I'm not gonna say, you know, it's very successful, but, you know, as I said, like, just, being, a friend, but it's good. You know,
Yeah,
Necessarily scary, but
like,
Jesus.
their perception of scary.
But I mean, like, he wouldn't be scary. He wasn't scary. Everyone loved him. But he's very,
Firm.
so-
and certain.
I'm using the kids terminology, right?
That's fine. Sorry,
No, and I people point that I understand your position of saying they need to know that maybe the term scary comes in play when I don't want to do the song again because I don't want you to be mad or upset with me. Maybe that's how to translate it, but.
I get it. I'm not there.
I'm just kidding. I want to make sure that he was it.
I think at one point, what it comes with a bit of experience as well. And I always say, know your kids. Know your kids very well, as best as you can, on a very personal level, with boundaries. Okay. I always use this example, and I hate using it, but I will use it. Kids convention play a few years, about 12 years ago. I walked into the chapel and they were practicing in there. And there was one kid who was reading the script and could barely read it. And there was a young servant who knew what was wrong. And there was a tant who was brought in to help. The tant, filter free, says, "What's wrong with you? Are you blind?" Not knowing that he was diagnosed with clinical blindness a month before. Know your kids. Know when, and be careful, because, and the reason I'm saying know your kids and be careful is kids today are very smart. I always get into arguments sometimes with my admin team, because when something happens, I take my good time, because I always know that there's a story behind the story behind the story. When is it that they're coming to you to grab your attention? When is it that there is a hole in the story that you could go in and really help? When is it the full truth? Knowing your kids, drawing that boundary is very important. And then knowing how much you can help and how much you need to seek higher help. The problem with the kid I was talking about is that teacher crossed out a lot of things. And that doesn't work, okay? And kids today, I don't care if they're the perfect child or the most manipulative. There's gonna always be a story behind the story behind the story. And they're good. I almost fired my head of French department. Well, I was still vice principal, but I was part of this 14 years ago, because a full class, 14 grade 8 students, made up a story, matched the story, and told their parents, 12 years ago, told their parents the same exact story. I remember I was with Abuna Pshoy in Australia in a conference, and we came back, and my dad, Abuna Gilles, does not wait for anyone in the airport. The man, we don't even see him. He was waiting for me in the airport. And I come down from an 18-hour flight. Abuna Gilles tomorrow morning, we have a meeting at the school. I said, tomorrow morning is first day of Christmas break. We have an emergency. The parents could not believe. And I talked and I asked And I kept on going. And at the very end, I honestly today, I don't remember what the loophole was, but one of the kids said something that sparked. But having that relationship made me know that there's something fish. في حاجة smelling not nice. Today, they don't even match. إحنا today, the stories go on, and I hate to say this, but COVID damaged a lot. Though COVID damaged a lot. They believe things in their mind. And it's scary. So having the story, listening to them, being there for them, supporting them, having the boundary for yourself and for them. I'm not saying يعني don't push them away, but once you feel في حاجة مش مظبوطة, go to the higher, go to the coordinator, go to Abuna, and know that it has to be with you, and God's guidance, you have to seek it all the time when dealing with kids today. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll ask them to leave my office, and I'll pray and please God guide, because I don't know what I'm doing. I was telling Abuna Pshoy the other day, I had a kid it was 7 and 8. I had a kid in grade 2. Kid took something that belonged to him. He went and told the teacher who was on lunch duty. Teacher told the kid to give it back. The kid decided not to give it back. I was called down the hall because there was a teacher being beaten up and a class being torn to pieces. فأنا داخلة بقى I don't know what I'm facing. I found about 4 desks. They had taken him out of the class. They managed to take him out of the class, put him in an empty room because he was freaking out. The 4 desks flipped over, 5 chairs. Mark, do you remember the China chairs? The wood ones? فاكرهم دول. They're not normal chairs. Like, I carried one and I told him, you know what, you're going to carry them because they're too heavy for me. قد كده. This kid, it took me a good 15 minutes to calm him down. I had to be very firm, very, strong with them. Took him to the office, called the parent to pick him up, and the father came in, and he said, before I spoke to him, I said, this is what happened, this is what we did. He calmed down, he finally listened, he came to the office, and he fixed the chairs. He apologized to the teacher, but he's very angry. The father is not Coptic, he's from Ghana. He said to me, could you please give me 5 minutes? And I said, sure. He goes, I need to do something, and then I need him to come into the room with me. I sat outside. The father closed his eyes and bowed and prayed. And then the boy came in. The boy was scared. And the father hugged him and prayed with him. And then he said, tell me what happened. And he told him, he said, I asked my friend to give me back. The problem was he had won this prize. It was a pack of erasers. He won because he was good all week. And that kid took it from him and wouldn't give it back. So not only is it his stuff, it's something he worked hard for, and now he lost it. So he gets very angry. He has no way of expressing. This is his first year in-person school in 2.5 years. This is what we're dealing with. ف7 and 8 ده كبير. حاجات بتنزل. But I loved what that father did. I was just telling Abuna Pshoy this, I actually learned from that father. يعني, we underestimate the power of prayer sometimes. It could be in your mind, but انت as a servant, be their friend, be their supporter, be their mentor, but be also assertive and draw the line for yourself. So that way, if it's not in your ballpark, don't take it there. And the problems, guys, now are bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm not scaring you, I hope.
Everyone is meant to be a lesson for everyone, and so their fault.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of boundaries, one of the things that I keep people doing is that, outside of the school context, but just, look at it like, oh, I want to be friends with kids. So that means I would allow him to stand in the face, allow him to say, make bad comments or whatever. I think it's important to make sure these things don't happen, right? Because boundaries are important, right? You need to know the difference between another kid in the class and the syllabus in the class. This line needs to always be the. And that doesn't mean you're a mean person. You just no, we're playing together, we're having fun together, but you shouldn't do this because you can do this to the school teacher. So why you can do it to your older sibling either, right? Or you shouldn't, at least, right? It's kind of like making sure the general good behavior is observed all the time. I think.
I think our problem sometimes is we go extremes. We go big extremes. We're either extra friendly to a point where they cross every line and then they don't understand that they've crossed the line. Or we're extra firm that they hate the day they were born in coming into your class. So, yeah, حاجة من الاتنين. We don't have that middle. Yeah, we don't have the middle. And having that middle, it's extremely important, extremely important. But and be very, very aware of what you can and can't do. I can't do technology. I can technology and I don't mix. I seek help for technology, right? But I also I have ideas. I imagine things and I tell people what I imagine and they make it happen. So we all have strengths and weaknesses. Not everyone can poke through and listen and be patient, and not everyone could. But I'm finding, I'll tell you something that I'm noticing it a lot post COVID is we're very short tempered. We're very. I'm finding. I was sitting in my office, literally 3 teachers open my door with a student. I just want to let you know that I'm not discussing grades right now and that we publish the report cards, not realizing that the kids open the report cards in the middle of the day. So they're just asking their teacher, why is my grade like this? And the teachers are just so tired. So 3 teachers. And I'm like, I just want to let you know. And the kid's standing there. I'm like, okay, do you need anything from me? No, I just want to let you know. Okay. And the kid's like, all I do is I just asked, is my mark like this final, or am I gonna be able to improve it after? Like 3 teachers. And the third one, that was the funniest. That's it. I told him not to come in. I started my class. He slammed the door. So he's just sitting in my office, in the office. I said, okay, and I'll come and get him later. Okay, do you need anything from me? No. Okay. I'm glad we become extremes. Yeah, I find يا إما we're screaming, يا إما we're very funny. ما بقاش في middle ground. And in service, the same thing. Like I've noticed it in service. I've noticed with COVID, I think made us forget how to be humans and have the fun moments and the sad moments and but we become short fused. Be careful with that too. Anything else you guys want to talk, chat, question? Okay. Next week, Jesus on leadership. And maybe we need to hide this Apple TV, or now you know where it's from. So next time you'll bring it. And then the week after, you're only having me for half the time, and then you'll get the serious guy. And he's the mature younger brother. He's the lawyer, so he's politically correct. And he's very proper, but I'm the wiser. Sorry? He is, but I'm the